Tennessee This Week from WATE's 6 on Your Side starts now.
Hello and welcome to Tennessee This Week. I'm Bo Williams. We've got a lot to get to this week, beginning with Knoxville City Council's decision to not take up the future of Chilhowee Park, removing it from the agenda in a 5-4 vote this past Tuesday. Joining us today, Courtney Piper, George Korda, and Michael Covington. George, great to have you back.
Well, thank you,
okay.
Bo.
We're looking at shaking hands.
Thank
there
you,
we go.
Bo.
We always try to pull you back in every once in a while.
It's an honor and a delight.
Okay, that's good. Hey, let's jump right into it because I know there's a lot of things we need to talk about. Michael, I'm actually going to start with you. Okay. Chilhowee Park, surprised by the 5-4 vote to how this turned out on Tuesday night concerning Chilhowee?
No.
No, not at all.
And I wasn't the only one that was certain of it. Mm-hmm. On the day of the election, the day of the vote, Debbie Helsey knew. I'm still trying to figure out how she knew. I know how I knew. There were 4 votes that were there. One of the 5 was all that was needed. And I felt like one of those 5 would jump in. So I wasn't surprised at the outcome. I was surprised that it wasn't a full house. There must have been a resignation that the outcome was pretty much a certainty. And that's a good thing in some respects, and maybe not so good in some other respects.
Yeah. Courtney, were you surprised after you saw the results on Tuesday?
The opposition to this was very interesting.
Yeah.
It was aggressive, it was continuous, and they showed up in force. I did not see that same sort of reaction from the pro side, and community organized pro side, until the vote was taken and after the vote was taken. And then those folks were outraged about, what are our kids going to do now? What are we going to do now? And I just, as the opposition grew, it became clear that some of the city council people were really leaning on the communication aspect of this as the reason why they didn't want to vote for this plan. It wasn't the substance, it was how it was communicated to them, and they could not get over that piece. This one is just a real head scratcher for me. That property would be great as some sort of recreational facility. It's an ideal place to expand on that kind of lakeshore concept or the Emerald Youth concept, to have those kinds of athletic fields, park amenities in that space. And the fact that it's not being done there and that property will continue to be effectively a parking lot is just a real loss for East Knoxville.
All right, George.
Well, it falls under the heading of an old saying that I heard when I worked on Tennessee's Capitol Hill. Mm-hmm. If I ain't up on it, I'm down on it. And this thing crashed and burned for a couple of reasons. One, everybody was in a conference room when they came up with this idea and said, this is a great idea, everybody's going to go along with it. And then somebody decided, we're going to bash this thing through and nobody's going to know about it. Because even council members a few days before the first vote was supposed to be taken hadn't heard of it. So you embarrassed council members. They're getting calls from people, I don't know what you're talking about. So that's a bad thing. B, somebody in the mayor's administration, starting with the mayor, should have looked at this and said, this is a dumb idea. We can't try to ram this thing through, something of this size affecting this area. The way we're doing it, it's going to get out and we're going to look like schmucks. And it got out. And guess what? And if somebody did say, wait a minute, this is a dumb idea, we need to back off on it, and they weren't listened to, that's the person they should listen to in the future. This is a screw up of strategy, of timing, and of tactics. And it throws into great question the ability of this team to get that sales tax passed.
With all screw-ups, there comes opportunity. So
Okay.
now there is a lot of attention on this part of town, which is my part of town. There's a lot of attention on this property. And if the city were to reissue another RFP process and go through that same process again, I would suspect it would get a lot more attention, a lot more input from the community on the front end. The city went through a 2-year, 17 meeting engagement with the community with 500 or 600 folks. And somehow when it got to the point of a city council vote, no one had heard of it. Well, now there's a lot of attention on this part of Chilhowee Park. So let's reissue the RFP and see what else comes back.
Michael?
Well, when this first came about, I had no interest in it. I had no interest in this and would maintain no interest in it had the initial rollout not been so nonsensical. Courtney makes an excellent point. The opposition was fierce, but the opposition was multi-pronged. For instance, I wasn't really for the deal because it was a bad deal. I was curious as to how the city was advancing something that was so galactically bad. The more I found out about it, the worse it got. So the first alarm was City Council caught by surprise on sale of 12.7 acres. Then it becomes only 6 days to vote. Then there's a delay and a meeting, and in the meeting, that was when the second flag came. Why didn't you lease the land instead of sell it? The answer, we were under the threat of a lawsuit. Ooh, a second red flag. Now I've got to dig a little deeper. The more you dig, the more you realize the objective here was more than serving children. And this situation needed to be dealt with. It needed to go away. And the city council acted in the only way it really could have acted, because the lawsuit that was forthcoming was only going to be built on by the case that could have been made 8 years ago when the city tried to give the 10 acres to Emerald and it was dashed. So
Look,
this has been bad from day one.
What the city ought to do when the freedom from religion people come around threatening to sue is say, go ahead. That's why we have a law.
That's what they should have done. Exactly.
Drop dead. We got a law department for this. All you do is you send out letters all the time warning people, oh, if you even mention anything theological or religious, because they want religion in the public square treated in the United States exactly as it appears as was treated in the Soviet Union. So just tell them to sue us. But don't use that as an excuse. Oh, we can't do this because we might get sued. They're getting sued every day for something.
I tell you what.
Other than that, I have no strong feelings on it.
We did get reaction that night. I do want you to hear some of the sound here. First of all, we spoke with Reverend Middlebrook. Let's get his reaction following that 5-4 vote.
We're going to pray. We're going to take a look at where we are. And we're going to decide where do we go from here. Our young people are still the most important factor in this whole discussion.
So I kind of said we're going to take a look at things again. You already kind of alluded what you'd like to see moving forward, Courtney. George, Michael, we'll start with you. Moving forward, what's next?
Well, here's what will happen. Nothing's going to happen immediately, obviously. And the issue now is that the way the Kincannon administration tried to push this thing, and it goes to something Michael pointed about why you'd have reservations. If you're doing something that fast, there's a reason.
It wasn't that this was a 2-year process.
Look, if council members don't know for a couple of days or a few days before a meeting, they're going to be voting on something of this size. There's a reason why they don't know or haven't been told.
Well, they are elected officials, George. They have a responsibility to pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah, okay, it's council's fault.
Right?
It's council's fault.
Right?
So
you don't think an elected official has a responsibility to be engaged in the community in which they are serving?
I think the mayor of the city bringing this sort of a proposal before the city council does it in the open, in front of everybody, well in advance, and doesn't have council members finding out by accident a few days before the vote. If you disagree with me on that, that's your right.
They knew this RFP was out. They knew Emerald Youth was going to be bidding on it. Emerald Youth talked about it a year earlier at one of their annual breakfast luncheons. I forgot what part of the day it is. So people knew that this was happening. Did they know the exact details? Correct. They did not know those until
they knew about it a year ahead of time.
Until 6 days before. But it's also my understanding that that is the deadline for agenda materials for the city's council meetings.
4 days in advance? No, that's not right. But here's the other thing.
6 days, the week before.
When you do things like this, whether you think it's right wrong, or if there are if you're explaining you're losing, number one.
Yes, that is true.
And then what happens is, like Michael, you start looking. What about this? If they're doing this, can I trust them when they say this? And if they're doing that, can I trust them when they say this? And the whole thing starts to unravel, which is why if you're going to council with this kind of a contract, and nobody's saying it, it looked like it was a really good deal, a good idea, not necessarily deal, then you better expect, if you don't get it done, if you don't get it rammed through the way you plan, then you're going to attract all sorts of opposition, which is exactly what happened.
Real quick, we started with you, Michael. I'm going to finish with you before we go to the break.
What I would say is this. I can remember several months ago, let's just say 4 months ago, I can recall on social media seeing that the mayor attended the Park Ridge Community Association meeting, which I thought was very impressive. Anytime you get the mayor in your community meeting, that's a good thing. Fast forward to this situation, Courtney is right. There was the pronouncement of several meetings. Hundreds of people were contacted. Problem with that was many of those people were never really contacted. Many of those names were on that list without their knowledge or permission, and they didn't even know what the project was about.
I'm not talking about that endorsement letter. I'm talking about we went to meetings, we sent out information.
I'm talking about the representation from the mayor's office that they went to all these organizations and they had buy-in. They did not. Park Ridge says, you were just here and you mentioned nothing. That makes it look like it was not transparent, and the Park Ridge residents were as adamantly against this as anyone. For that very reason.
I want you to consider the scenario where the mayor went to a Park Ridge meeting before she had handed materials to City Council and unveiled the details of the deal at a neighborhood meeting before she gave them to City Council.
It was an absolute failure.
You just made a very good point. Why?
I tell you what, think about that for a second. We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Tennessee This Week. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. This week, the federal government shut down after lawmakers in Washington failed to come to an agreement on funding. We're going to bring our panel of pundits back in to talk about this. Now, I want to remind everybody we're taping this show on a Friday afternoon. The Senate is actually supposed to be meeting while we're taping this show to discuss this. So things could change, but there's a lot of people who think nothing's going to change, at least until next week. So, Courtney, let me start with you. First of all, was this avoidable? Regardless of what happens from now through the weekend, was this all avoidable?
Sure, it was avoidable. Our government is supposed to work with compromising and negotiation. And Tuesday, the day before the government shut down, the Republicans refused to attend meetings and sessions to have those discussions. The House gavelled in on Tuesday, and there were no Republicans present except for the one who called the meeting. The Democrats tried to put forward their proposal for a compromise, and it was not recognized, and then they gavelled out. So the Republicans need to be able to come to the table with Democrats to compromise. And the issue that Democrats have chosen to hang their hats on is a valid one. At the center of this whole debate is the cost of health care. Americans' health care is about to explode if we do not address extending the tax credits that are in the Affordable Care Act. There are representatives and senators that are posting on social media the letters their constituents are receiving that their health care is going from $300 a month to $900 a month if Congress doesn't do something. So the issue that Democrats have chosen to really hang their hat on is health care needs to be affordable for Americans, and that's something that we're willing to fight for.
George, is this all avoidable?
Well, they're always avoidable, but you always got politics, too.
Well, that kind of brings up the next question then. Which side of the table, or is it everybody in the pot?
Could there be politics involved? Yeah. Here's the only thing Republicans should be saying. Two things. Actually, two things. One, the only reason the Democrats are doing this is because they're led by Chuck Schumer, and he's afraid of being primaried in New York by AOC. And the last time he came to an agreement with us, the left ripped him to pieces, and he's afraid of being primaried, and he's afraid a place that might elect a guy who is a socialist as mayor of New York. He's scared for his job. So he can't afford, Schumer cannot afford to have the left at his throat again. So he's trying to figure out, how do I get out of this without getting my own side wanting my head and giving AOC a boatload of ammunition to use against me with the left of our own party. And the other thing is, it's being said that, Republicans are saying the Democrats want to give health care to illegal immigrants, and the Democrats are saying that's not true, there's a federal law against it. Now, that's true, there is a federal law against it. But I looked at this a little bit. You know, during the Biden administration, millions of people flooded across the border, and they were given asylum status or parolee status or some other status. So I looked this up on the DHS website, and in order to make sure I wouldn't forget, I wrote these down. These are just a few of the things that make aliens eligible for taxpayer-paid health care.
But they were, if you have that status, are you here legally?
Qualified non-citizens who get these things include lawful permanent residents, asylees, refugees, Cuban Haitian immigrants, paroled into the U.S. for at least a year. That's millions of people right there. So can you technically make the argument? Yes, the Democrats are saying there's a law against people getting this stuff. So all we do is we'll call them something different and they get this stuff.
There's
no
how it works.
difference.
There's a whole process to get legal status in the United States.
No, actually, Courtney, there's not, because the
Yeah,
Biden
there
administration, hold on,
is.
the Biden administration, there was, you may remember this, there were thousands of illegal Haitian immigrants under bridges in Texas, and the media covered it. Almost immediately, the Biden administration started paroling everybody who came across the border. Hey, you got to show up for a hearing.
But now they have, like, George, what you just read is not undocumented people getting health care benefits. It's people that have legal status in the United States who are eligible for health care benefits. And that's part of the problem
And there are millions
here.
of people who came illegally who were given a different designation, so now they can get health care benefits. This is an argument over semantics.
Okay, they weren't. But they are here legally. It's
No,
not
it's like
people who
calling
are
a
here,
janitor a
here
sanitation
illegally.
engineer. Okay, now you are in a different pay scale because you're not called what you were.
Hey, I want Michael to chime in here for a second. Michael, been patient down there on the end, so why don't you jump in?
I feel for the Democratic Party. They unleashed the federal government on a private citizen, Donald Trump. They lost. They came up against Donald Trump with a flawed candidate. They lost. Now Donald Trump is in the White House, serving in a second term, after having skipped out of a second term after his first term because of a questionable election. We won't need to go there, but what we have is a Democratic Party that is now desperate. They are desperate to find a leader. There is not one. They are desperate to find an issue that works. Abortion didn't work. Immigration, not going to work. Healthcare, not going to work. Courtney was exactly right. The healthcare industry and healthcare is about to explode. The problem with it is the specificity of it is that it's the people that are exploding. People are not taking good care of themselves, and so healthcare is exploding in part because you can sit in a restaurant and watch people walk in and you wonder, are you going to burst out of your skin before your meal is over? So, yes.
You think we should control what people put in their mouths, Michael?
Nope, I don't care what people put in their mouths. But again, I'm not feeling as though we need to pay for people's health care that don't care about their health care.
I don't think that's accurate.
Some form of that subsidy is going to come back. It's the taxpayers paying for it, basically. And it was, as I was reading about this, essentially it was put in, these that are under great question right now came in under COVID. Well, COVID's over. But once a federal program that we can't afford, we're going to be $1.9 trillion in debt. Americans are having their government borrow $60,000 every second of every day of the year, putting us more into debt, to pay for things we can't afford.
So then we should stop tax credits for the ultra wealthy
This
too,
is
George.
one of them. We cannot afford it. It's basic mathematics.
Then we can't
Economics.
afford tax credits for the ultra wealthy
yeah,
either.
okay. Well,
I mean,
well,
where are you going to
Courtney,
draw the
that's
line?
not on the table at the moment.
Everyday Americans don't deserve a tax credit, but the ultra wealthy that can meet
No,
their
we're not
own basic needs, they get one. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
You know what? You're grabbing at something
That
as it
makes
flies
no
by.
sense,
no,
George.
It depends on the definition. It depends on how it works.
makes no-
and some of them
it
probably
doesn't-
should go
George,
away.
if you're explaining, you're losing. It makes no sense.
Some of them probably should go
We're
away.
going to let them continue
but
to
this
discuss.
can't
We
be
do
afforded.
need to take a commercial break. We'll be back with more of Tennessee This Week and another topic in just a moment. All right, welcome back to Tennessee This Week. The National Guard, as well as a federal task force, now operating in a Tennessee city. Of course, we're talking about the city of Memphis, so we do want to bring this up with our pundits, talk about the latest developments. George, I'll start with you this time. Was all of this necessary? That seems to be the big debate.
Whether increased crime prevention and enforcement in Memphis is necessary is obvious, yes. Should the federal government be sending uniformed troops, albeit whether it's National Guard or active duty troops, into American cities to support or act as police officers? The answer is unequivocally absolutely no. The military has no place, no role, no reason to be in American cities. Look, Memphis is a crime problem. Chicago's a crime problem. Baltimore's a crime problem. Detroit's a crime problem. And they all have a consistent political leadership. And that's part of the reason why I think Trump's doing this. But I think it's wrong. If the governor and the mayor want help from the federal government, ask for it. But don't. When Donald Trump said to the military commanders, American cities could act as more or less a training base for them, that was absolutely wrong. And I hope somebody talks him out of it.
Michael, I want to jump down to you.
If it is legally allowed, I'm okay with it. On its face, though, I do have a problem with military troops going into even troubled areas on U.S. soil. I don't know that the problems in Detroit or Baltimore or Memphis rise to the level, or Chicago, rise to the level of needing military troops in. But I know the situations are bad. So if Donald Trump has legal grounds to do it, I'm okay with it.
Courtney?
The interesting aspect of this is nobody in the city of Memphis asked for this. Nobody said that this is what they needed or wanted or has been shown to prove effective to help them control crime in their community. What I'm sure has happened is the city of Memphis, Shelby County, the police departments have asked for other sorts of federal grants and assistance for options and opportunities that they know will help reduce crime. Were those calls answered? Did they even ask the police chief or the city mayor or the city council what they thought would be effective strategies and helpful support from the federal government? They did not. The local community was not engaged.
Should the governor jump in and say,
Yeah,
hey,
actually,
we're okay here?
the governor-
I mean, I know he has chimed in,
Well-
but at one point it was kind of like, it seems like we're okay, and then the governor kind of turned around and seemed to be more
I think what the governor should
supportive
say
of this.
is, Mr. President, I support you, I thank you, I like you, and you shouldn't be doing this. It should come from the city of Memphis to the governor, and then if necessary to the president, not the president into Memphis with U.S. troops, National Guard or active. And so Bill Lee got cut out of this thing. I'm sure he's embarrassed. And that, the way it's being done, it should not be done. Trump's wrong, and I hope somebody can get him to reverse his course. But he hasn't shown a real tendency to listen to other people.
Yeah. Michael?
The American people elected a boss. Donald Trump is doing what bosses do. He's making assessments of situations, and he's acting. That's what he was hired to do. That's what he was elected to do. That's what the American people want him to do. And no one is complaining about the fact that crime is reduced everywhere those troops have gone. So the bottom line is, we got what we paid for, we got what we voted for, and most Americans are happy about it.
Yeah. Courtney, I'm going to let you kind of jump. We have about 30 seconds left here, so.
Unfortunately, that sort of commentary is true. This is what people voted for, but the thing that people voted for was not really consistent with the ideals of our democracy, our Constitution, and the rule of law.
Okay. And we're going to have to wrap things up right there. And on that note, of course, we'll have much more discussion for you and a variety of topics coming up next week. So I hope you will join us right here on Tennessee This Week. Have yourself a great day.
The views of guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Nexstar Broadcasting.